Welcome to ADHDifference Strategies, practical tools for beautifully different brains. I'm your host, Julie Legg, author of The Missing Piece and diagnosed with ADHD at 52. This is a companion to our main podcast, ADHDifference, where we explore lived experiences of ADHD. But here in Strategies, we focus on what works, how to make it stick, and the science behind it all. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself thinking the same old thing about yourself, even when you know it's not really true anymore? Like, I'm the one who always drops the ball. I never finish anything. I'm just bad at adulting. Well, same. We all have those internal scripts, those little self-narratives that loop inside our heads so many times they start to feel like fact. Especially if you were diagnosed with ADHD later in life, those stories can run deep. Years, maybe decades of trying to fit a mold you didn't know existed. It adds up. Today, we're talking about how to interrupt that cycle of shame and self-blame by learning to reframe the story you tell yourself. Because sometimes the problem isn't you, it's the lens you've been looking through. And helping us unpack this idea is Michael W Allison, a US Marine combat veteran, Purple Heart recipient, and resilience expert. Here's a little snippet from him.
Learn how to reframe the narrative. I think self-doubt is often distorted perception and it's not your reality. And when you get a chance to reframe things and look at things from a different perspective, it really makes you have much more of awareness when you start looking at things.
Let's dig in. Why it works is because ADHD brains don't just think differently, they feel differently. We store emotion in ways that make certain experiences stick harder and not always the good ones. So if you've told yourself a story like, I always forget things or I never follow through, and that story is soaked in shame or frustration, it lodges in there. And reframing helps us unstick that story. It lets us take a second, not to deny what happened, but to reframe what it means. So instead of, I'm so flaky, you might try, I sometimes forget things, but I'm learning ways to support my memory. It's not just semantics, it's a total mindset shift. You're not ignoring the struggle, but you're just adding in the whole truth. And the truth is, you're doing your best with a brain that wasn't built for rigid systems and guilt-based motivation. When we reframe, we start to speak to ourselves like we'd speak to a friend, and that changes everything. Because what we repeat becomes what we believe, and what we believe shapes how we feel, how we show up, and what we think we're capable of. When to use this strategy. This isn't just a bad day tool, it's a daily life tool, especially when you've made a mistake and instantly start spiraling into shame, or you're stuck on a past failure and it's coloring your present. You've absorbed a label like lazy, messy, or too much. Or when you've done something very human, like forgetting an appointment, and suddenly you're treating it like a full-blown character flaw. Also, watch out for red flag phrases like I always or I never. Those are usually signs that a story is running the show. That's your cue. Breathe, pause, reframe. How to practice it daily. Okay, let's make this easy because no one needs more homework. Start with a script that your brain jumps to, something like, I'm so bad at this. Is that the whole story? What might else be true? Maybe I find this challenging, but I'm learning. Or this is something I've struggled with and I'm trying new tools. Or I'm having a hard time today, but it doesn't mean I always will. There's a quick mini habit you can try. And that's at the end of your day, voice note or write down just two things. What story popped up today? And how could I tell it differently? You'll be amazed how quickly those retellings shift your internal world. The science behind it. Now let's get nerdy in the best way. Cognitive reappraisal, which is the sciencey name for reframing, has been shown to reduce emotional reactivity and increase flexibility, both of which are super relevant for ADHD brains. In a 2012 study, it found that reframing can reduce amygdala activation, and that's part of the brain responsible for that fight, flight, freeze, panic mode. Basically, reappraisal calms your nervous system so you can think clearly. Self compassion is another powerful part of this picture. Research shows that people who treat themselves with kindness rather than criticism bounce back faster after failure and avoid those shame spirals that can be so debilitating. A 2018 study found that reframing autobiographical memories, yep, that's your own life stories, actually shifts self identity over time, improving mood and self esteem. In short, reframing isn't fluff, it's neurobiologically powerful. It's not about pretending everything's fine, it's about reclaiming the narrative in a way that's honest and hopeful. Let's be real. You are not your worst day. You are not a collection of mistakes or misfires or missed appointments. You're a whole person doing your best in a world that often misunderstands how your brain works. Reframing isn't about toxic positivity or slapping a smiley face on hard things. It's about expanding the frame, zooming out, telling the full truth, the struggle, and the strength. So the next time your inner narrator starts dishing out harsh commentary, pause, rewind, and rewrite because you're the storyteller here. And your new story can be one of growth, of gentleness, of beautifully imperfect progress. A big thanks again to Michael W Allison for sharing this strategy and for being part of the broader ADHDifference conversation. If you'd like to hear more from that episode, head over to our main series. You'll be looking for Season 1, Episode 47, to hear more of his ADHD journey. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, and for more practical tools for beautifully different brains, hit the subscribe button.